Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're looking at a company that's been making headlines lately,
Yeah,
Comstock, trading under the ticker symbol LODE.
right.
So you might be asking yourself, is this stock worth my time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, today we're going to try to answer that very question for you.
Sounds good.
Let's
See,
get
what's
it.
interesting about Comstock is they present a bit of a puzzle.
Oh, really?
On the one hand, they're a smaller company. Their market cap is only about $73.86 million.
Okay.
And they've been facing some financial hurdles.
I like, sir.
In fact, over the past year, they reported a net loss of $22.57 million.
Okay, so not exactly a stellar performance at first glance.
Right.
And it doesn't stop there, right?
It does not.
They also missed their revenue targets in the third quarter of 2024.
Yeah, exactly. They brought in $2.56 million, but analysts were expecting $0.69 million.
Oh.
And the predictions for the fourth quarter aren't looking too rosy either,
Oh, no.
with analysts estimating an EPS of -$0.22.
So on the surface, the financials aren't exactly screaming buy.
Right.
Here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
Despite these challenges, a number of analysts are actually giving LODE a buy rating
Wow.
with an average price target of $2.65. That's almost 7 times its current trading price. So what are these analysts seeing that the rest of the market might be missing?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
This disconnect between analyst optimism and market sentiment is fascinating.
Okay.
You see, while analysts are looking at Comstock's potential for long-term growth, the market seems to be reacting more to their recent struggles.
Interesting.
For example, one metric, the Fear and Greed Index, which measures market sentiment, is currently at 39 for LODE.
Okay.
That puts it squarely in fear territory. This means investors are, well, a little spooked right now.
That makes sense if you just look at the recent
Sure.
numbers. It's easy to get caught up in the negative.
Yeah.
But let's delve deeper into why analysts are feeling so bullish about Comstock's future.
Sure. So it seems that analysts are really focusing on Comstock's asset-light business model, which they believe could give them a competitive edge.
I see.
They're essentially streamlining their operations and focusing on key growth areas like fuels and metals.
Right.
Comstock's management has been vocal about this new strategy, and analysts seem to be buying into it.
So are they essentially betting on Comstock's ability to turn things around and execute this new strategy effectively?
Exactly. And it's not just internal factors that are contributing to this optimistic outlook.
Right.
There's also the broader market context to consider.
Okay.
The U.S. stock market has been on an upward trend since the recent election, and small-cap stocks like OAE are often seen as potential winners.
Yeah.
In a favorable economic environment, they tend to be more sensitive to interest rate cuts
Okay.
and are less exposed to global economic pressures.
Right. So they have the potential to really benefit if the economy continues to grow.
Exactly.
But of course, this doesn't come without risks, does it?
Absolutely. Comstock is a volatile stock with a beta of 1.93. Now, beta measures a stock's volatility compared to the overall market. So a beta of 1.93 means Comstock tends to swing much more dramatically than the average stock.
Wow.
While this volatility presents the potential for big gains, it also means there's a real possibility of significant losses.
So for investors, it really comes down to understanding your own risk tolerance.
Right.
But before we jump into that, let's talk about some key events and indicators to watch
Sure.
that could give us more insight into Comstock's future.
Okay. One of the most significant things to keep in mind is the shifting political landscape.
Okay.
With Donald Trump returning to the presidency in January 2025,
Right.
there's potential for big changes that could impact Comstock.
Ah, yes. His economic policies could definitely create ripples throughout the market,
Yeah.
especially for smaller companies like Comstock.
Right.
What kind of changes are we talking about here?
Well, there's a lot of talk about potential tax reforms
Okay.
that could align with his previous initiatives, like the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Think simplification of tax structures, and maybe even the renewal of certain provisions that are set to expire.
So could this be good news for Comstock? Could these tax changes potentially benefit them?
Possibly, but it's not quite that simple. You also have to consider the discussions around the Federal Reserve's mandate.
Okay.
There are whispers of abolishing it altogether
Wow.
or shifting its focus away from employment and solely towards inflation targeting.
And how would that impact a company like Comstock?
Well, any major change to the Federal Reserve's approach could create a domino effect throughout the economy, interest rates, lending practices, overall market stability.
Yeah.
These are all things that could indirectly influence Comstock's performance.
So it's not just about Comstock's internal performance. It's about understanding the larger economic forces at play.
Exactly.
Forces that could be heavily influenced by the new administration.
Precisely. And there's another major political development you need to be aware of. Project 2025. It's a comprehensive policy agenda developed by the Heritage Foundation.
Okay.
And it's causing quite a stir.
Project 2025. Huh. That sounds ambitious.
Yeah.
What's the gist of it?
Think of it as a blueprint for a major overhaul of the federal government.
Okay.
There are all sorts of proposals within Project 2025 that could drastically reshape the social and economic frameworks of the U.S.
Oh, wow.
And that has implications for various industries, including energy and resources, which could directly impact Comstock.
So how could Comstock's operations be specifically affected by these proposed changes?
Well, for example, Project 2025 advocates for dismantling the Department of Homeland Security and abolishing the Department of Education. On top of that, there are proposals for major changes to environmental policy, likely rolling back regulations and favoring fossil fuel industries.
Okay, so that's a lot to digest.
Right.
A new presidential administration with potential tax reforms, changes to the Federal Reserve's mandate, and a sweeping government overhaul outlined in Project 2025. It seems like there are a lot of moving pieces, and it's hard to predict how they'll all fall into place.
Exactly. And that's why it's absolutely crucial for investors to stay informed and do their own research. Don't just take our word for it. Dig into Comstock's operations, understand their financial performance, and pay close attention to how these political and economic developments might influence their future.
Great advice. So to summarize for our listeners, if you're interested in Comstock, it's not enough to just look at their balance sheet.
Right.
You need to stay up to date on their announcements, track analyst ratings, and keep a close eye on the political landscape, especially anything related to Project 2025.
You got it. And don't forget about technical indicators.
Right.
They can give you valuable insight into potential buying or selling opportunities, especially as we approach key events like Comstock's upcoming earnings announcement.
Right. Technical analysis can be a helpful tool in your arsenal, especially when you're dealing with a volatile stock like Comstock. It can help you identify potential trends and figure out good entry or exit points based on past price movements and trading volume.
Exactly. And speaking of that upcoming earnings announcement,
it's
scheduled for February 25th, 2025.
Okay.
This is going to be a make-or-break moment for Comstock.
Oh, really?
As it will give us a clearer picture of their recent performance and offer clues about their future direction.
So circle that date on your calendar. Pay close attention to how the market reacts to those earnings figures. It could tell us a lot, especially given the current bearish sentiment around the stock.
Absolutely. The market's reaction will be very telling. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Comstock's financials, what analysts are saying, the overall market sentiment, the wider economic and political scene, and even touched on technical indicators. What's the bottom line for our listeners? What should they take away from all of this?
Well, it seems like Comstock is a company with a ton of potential, but also a fair amount of uncertainty surrounding it.
A classic high-risk, high-reward scenario. The potential rewards are definitely tempting. But you can't ignore the very real risks before you make any decisions. Do your homework, carefully weigh the pros and cons, and decide if Comstock truly aligns with your investment strategy and your personal risk tolerance.
And remember, this is just a snapshot in time. Things are constantly changing in the market. So stay informed, stay vigilant, and don't be afraid to adjust your strategy as needed. Sounds like Comstock is a company worth keeping on your radar, even if you're not ready to invest just yet.
I agree. It'll be fascinating to see how they navigate the challenges and opportunities in front of them.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've given our listeners plenty to consider today. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just to reiterate, investing in the stock market always has risks, and that's especially true with a company like Comstock that's shown a lot of volatility.
Right, so no matter what, make sure you're doing your own research and really understanding those potential downsides before making any decisions.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That wraps up our look at Comstock. We hope you found this episode insightful, and as always, remember to subscribe, share, and leave us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on Comstock. What are your predictions for the future of this company? We'd love to hear from you.